Today, I'm calling on 1 million Oregonians to step up and get their booster dose by the end of January.
First at 5, a call to action that you just heard from Oregon's governor as Omicron bears down on the state. The latest forecast from OHSU has that variant spreading fast and overwhelming hospitals. Tim Gordon starts us off.
Omicron is here, and it is poised to hit Oregon hard. That was the message delivered at a Friday news conference led by Governor Kate Brown.
We only have a few weeks to prepare before Omicron hits our communities and healthcare systems in full force.
The governor noted that it was a year ago this week that COVID vaccines were first administered here. And a year later, we face a second holiday season with the virus surging. OHSU's chief COVID forecaster expects we will follow countries like the UK and Denmark and see Omicron cases double every 2 or 3 days, quickly overtaking Delta as the dominant variant.
We can expect a surge in Oregon hospitalizations by mid-January, with infections that begin sooner than that. Combined with its heightened transmissibility, we expect Omicron will generate a large increase in the number of Oregonians who will become severely ill and likely need a hospital bed.
Dr. Graven did say that while Omicron may be the most transmissible yet, it does not appear to be as deadly as Delta. But just by sheer speed and volume, it will be hard to handle.
The OHSU forecast is telling us that a big wave is coming, and it threatens to be bigger than any wave we've seen before.
At its worst, Omicron could cause more than 3,000 to be hospitalized in Oregon at a peak in early February, compared to Delta's peak of 1,200 last September. But with a push of people getting vaccinated and boosted, the Omicron hospital surge could be closer to 2,000. That's why Oregon will focus on boosting the elderly and most vulnerable, and then move to get 1 million boosted in January.
The science and data are clear. Vaccinations are the strongest line of defense we have against COVID-19. And the preliminary research shows boosters provide a critical layer of protection against the Omicron variant.
Any way Oregonians can help themselves will help their communities and an exhausted healthcare system that is still short on hospital beds and staff dealing with the Delta variant.
To be candid, this feels like another gut punch, particularly for healthcare workers who've been stretched truly beyond their limits.
Tim Gordon, KGW News.
At the same time, 200 COVID cases are now being tied to several wrestling tournaments in Washington. That's up from an earlier estimate of about 90 cases. The tournaments were held on December 4th in Lacey, Sumner, Puyallup, and Yelm, and teams from almost a dozen counties participated. That includes Clark County, which says it has about 32 COVID cases among 5 local schools. However, it did not specify which schools. Clark County has put a pause on wrestling activities in the meantime, and the State Department of Health has also released new safety guidelines for high-contact sports, including frequent testing regardless of vaccination status. And COVID is also causing issues for pro sports. The NFL has moved 3 upcoming games due to COVID outbreaks. That includes the Seattle at Los Angeles game, which will now be next Tuesday instead of this Sunday. And the NHL has also shut down 2 more hockey teams for a week due to rising cases around the league. A number of the league's teams have had games postponed recently. All right, switching gears here at 5, Fred Meyer and QFC workers on the picket line. A bunch of them walked off the job today. They're citing unfair labor practices as the reason for their strike. KGW's Mike Benner talked with people on both sides and has more.
Late Friday morning outside the Hollywood Fred Meyer, a picket line of employees fed up over wages and benefits they say aren't competitive.
What we have here is an unfair labor practice strike. We have members at this corner, at that corner, and at every other entrance we can find.
Miles Ishaya of United Food and Commercial Workers Local 555 says Fred Meyer and QFC workers walked off the job at 6 a.m.
Do you know how many walked off the job?
I don't know that off the top of my head right now. This strike affects 7,000 plus members, though.
Those thousands of members, Ishaya says, have been working through a pandemic and deserve better compensation, as well as support from the community.
We would strongly urge the community to not cross our picket line. You can shop at Safeways, you can shop at Albertsons, those are union, all in the whole state of Oregon. But you know what? Do not cross the line.
The top brass at Fred Meyer and QFC are calling the decision to strike reckless. They say they're proposing a $36 million investment in additional wages and $30 million in annual contributions for health care benefits.
My heart breaks for our associates right now because this disruption by the union really is coming at the worst time of the year. Our associates and their families need their paychecks. This is a time that it's hard on everyone, and I can only imagine the anxiety and the stress this is causing each of them. So we want to get everyone back to work. Quite a few did show up for work today, and we are open.
Back at the Hollywood Fred Meyer, I walked past the picketers to get a look inside the store. It was business as usual. Checkout lanes were open and staffers were stocking shelves. There were also plenty of customers. This man was one of them.
Getting up to date and supporting unions when they're trying to work for fair wages and fair practices, yes.
David Shapiro educated himself about the strike, but only after doing a little shopping. He's now pledging to avoid Fred Meyer stores.
I should probably give them a higher wage. That's what I think.
These employees think so too. And as you can see, they're willing to fight for it.
These members deserve to be paid what they're owed.
All right, you may be wondering how long this strike will last. We're told it will end at 12:01 a.m. Christmas Eve morning. That's unless a deal is struck before then. But as it stands right now, there are no new bargaining sessions on the calendar. Reporting in Northwest Portland, I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
We have new information tonight about a man wanted for attempted kidnappings in Portland's Pearl District. This newly released surveillance picture was taken on Monday, December 13th, a day before an attempted kidnapping. And this video from Tuesday afternoon shows the man, police say, trying to grab a 6-year-old boy. This was in Fields Park on Northwest Overton. The boy's dad, as you can see, was able to free him from the attempted kidnapper. And also police say another attempted kidnapping was reported on Wednesday in the Powellhurst Gilbert neighborhood. A mom says a man tried to grab her 10-year-old son, and she managed to scare him off. Police say her description matches the Pearl attempted kidnapper, although they can't say for sure that it is the same guy. Regardless, they are looking for, they say, a Hispanic man, 20 to 30 years old, between 5'1" and 5'3". He's heavy set with dark hair and a small ponytail. He's also been seen with a black bicycle. Contact police if you have information. A social media challenge involving threats of violence at schools today has swept the country. Like a lot of other districts, Portland Public Schools sent a message to families reassuring parents that social media threats, mainly posted on TikTok, were not credible. The district also says it investigates every threat and takes them seriously.
But we always will notify Portland Police Bureau. We will start internal investigations, doing interviews of students, families that might have some additional information.
So a district official couldn't quantify the exact number of social media threats the district has received, only saying there's been an uptick in the last couple of weeks. Well, looking ahead now to the story at 6 o'clock, with that Omicron surge looming, healthcare workers are bracing for yet another frustrating and exhausting winter. And nurses say it doesn't help that some in their profession are making 4 times as much money as their colleagues. How? 2 words: traveling nurses. You can find videos bragging about the perks of that gig on social media. Basically, you travel around from state to state doing short-term gigs at hospitals and making a ton of money. Some make upwards of $200 an hour, and the average wage of a registered staff nurse is about $40 an hour. The Oregon Nurses Association says during the pandemic, Oregon hospitals started bringing more and more travel nurses on board, way more than they can afford long term, and local staff nurses already burned out by COVID are now fed up.
Are you hearing from staff nurses about this, and what are their feelings on that wage discrepancy between what they make and the travel nurses make?
So our members with ONA there's a lot of frustration around. Our members are not feeling valued by their employers.
Our own Ashley Korslund there digging into all of this. She also found pre-pandemic the U.S. was already grappling with a nursing shortage, and COVID has obviously made that far worse. Also, a recent poll from OHSU shows that more than half of their nurses are weighing leaving the profession altogether, and that, some argue, is why traveling nurses are needed. We'll dive into this at 6 on The Story.